The small research ship, Gentle Current, floated helplessly in the dark space between two distant stars. Its smooth, pearl-white hull was cracked in several places, and thin streams of glowing blue gas leaked out into the cold void inside the ship. Captain Vell pressed his webbed hand against the control panel and watched the numbers on his screen drop lower and lower. Captain called out his navigator Finn from across the bridge. "Life support is down to 38% at this rate. We have maybe 6 hours left." Fell closed his large, dark eyes and tried to stay calm. His people, the Acquire, were known throughout the galaxy for being peaceful and wise. They lived on water worlds and spent their time studying science and art. They had never been in a situation like this before. The Gentle Current was supposed to be on a simple mission. They were exploring new star systems, looking for planets with peaceful, plant-eating creatures that might want to join the Galactic Council. It was supposed to be safe and easy work, but 3 days ago, they had flown into a field of floating rocks that the ship's sensors had missed. The rocks had torn through their hull like sharp knives through paper. Now, they were stranded millions of miles from the nearest help with their engines dead and their communication system barely working. "Sir," said Dr. Kef, the ship's medical officer. She was tending to several crew members who had been hurt when the rocks hit their ship. "The younglings are having trouble breathing. The air is getting too thin for them." Vell looked over at the corner of the bridge, where 5 young Aquari sat quietly. They were just children brought along to learn about space exploration. Their gills were fluttering rapidly as they struggled to get enough oxygen from the failing air system. The captain felt a heavy weight in his chest. These were his people, his responsibility. There had to be something he could do. "What about the emergency beacon?" asked Finn. "Can we send a distress call?" Vell nodded and moved to the communication station. The emergency system was still working. Though barely when he activated it, the screen lit up with a map of nearby star systems. The computer began searching for any civilization that had faster-than-light travel and could reach them in time. Scanning for rescue possibilities, the computer said in its calm, musical voice, "Please wait." The crew gathered around as the system worked. Dots of light appeared on the star map, showing different alien civilizations. Most were too far away. Others did not have ships fast enough to reach them before their air ran out. Then suddenly, a new dot appeared on the map. It was close, very close compared to the others. The computer highlighted it in bright green. Suitable rescue civilization found. The computer announced planet designation, Earth, species, human technology level advanced faster than light capability. Estimated travel time to rescue, 18 hours. Vell frowned as he looked at the information Earth. "I have never heard of this planet." Finn checked the Council database. Finn's fingers moved quickly over his control panel. After a moment, his face went pale. "Captain, I found it. But there is a problem." "What kind of problem?" "The planet Earth is listed in the restricted files. It says here, extreme hazard, death world classification, contact, forbidden species designated as highly dangerous." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what a death world was, a planet so harsh and deadly that any species that evolved there would be savage and violent. The Galactic Council had strict rules about avoiding such worlds and the dangerous creatures that came from them, but Captain Dr. Kef said softly, "Look at their technology rating. It says they have advanced medical systems and rescue capabilities." Vell stared at the screen. The computer estimated that these humans could reach them in 18 hours, just in time to save his crew. But if they really were dangerous, death worlders, he looked around the bridge at his dying crew. The younglings were getting weaker by the minute. Several of his officers were unconscious from lack of oxygen. They did not have 18 hours to debate this decision. Maybe the database is wrong. Vell said more to himself than to anyone else. Any species advanced enough to travel between stars must be civilized. They must have learned to be peaceful like all council members. Finn nodded hopefully. Perhaps the classification is just old information, or maybe it is a mistake. Lee made his choice with shaking hands. He activated the distress beacon and aimed it toward Earth. The message would travel faster than light, reaching the human homeworld in just a few minutes in. He carefully composed their plea for help, emergency transmission to planet Earth. This is Captain Vell of the research vessel, Gentle Current. We are stranded in space with critical life support failure. Our position is, he read off their coordinates. We have 43 crew members aboard, including 5 younglings. We are scientists and explorers. We mean no harm to anyone, please. If you can hear this message, we desperately need rescue time remaining approximately 6 hours after he sent the message. Vell sat back in his chair and waited around him. His crew tried to stay calm, but he could see the fear in their eyes. They were putting their lives in the hands of complete strangers from a world marked as dangerous. How long until we get a response? Ask Dr. Kiff. If they receive our message and decide to help, we should hear back within the hour. Vell replied, then 18 hours for them to reach us. The waiting began. Every few minutes, someone would check the life support readings. The numbers kept dropping. 35%, 32%, 28%. Finally, after what felt like forever, the communication system crackled to life. A new voice came through the speakers, deeper and rougher than any quarry voice, speaking in words that the ship's translator had to work hard to understand. Attention. Vessel, Gentle Current. This is Admiral Kane of the Terran Defense Command. We have received your distress call and are preparing an immediate rescue mission. Please transmit your detailed ship specifications and crew medical requirements. Help is on the way. The bridge erupted and relieved cheers. They were saved. But as Vell listened to the message again, certain words stuck in his mind. Terran Defense Command, not Terran Science Institute or Terran Exploration Service. Defense Command sounded military. Captain Finn whispered, "Did you notice what he called himself, Admiral Kane? That is a military title." Vell felt a chill run through his body. What kind of rescue ship would be commanded by a military officer? What kind of civilization put their military in charge of rescue operations? But the life support was down to 24% now, and there was no time for second thoughts. They had called for help from the death welders, and now that help was coming, all they could do was wait and hope that they had not made a terrible mistake. Outside the ship, the stars continued to shine coldly in the darkness, keeping their secrets about what was racing toward them through the void. Deep inside the Terran Defense Command headquarters on Earth, alarms suddenly filled the air with their sharp, urgent sound. Admiral Kane was in his office reviewing reports from the outer colonies when his communication officer burst through the door. "Sir, we have an emergency transmission from unknown aliens," Lieutenant Ross said, breathing hard from running. "They're asking for rescue." Kane stood up quickly, his tall frame casting a long shadow across the room. His gray hair and weathered face showed the marks of 30 years in the military. "Aliens. Are you certain it's not a trick? The transmission is unlike anything we've seen before, sir. The language patterns, the technology signatures, it's definitely not human, and sir." Ross paused, looking worried. "The bioscans they sent show their dying life support failure in space." Kane followed Ross to the main command center, where dozens of officers worked at glowing screens. The large wall display showed a map of nearby space, with a small blinking dot marking the location of the alien ship. "Play the message," Kane ordered. The speakers filled the room with a strange musical voice. "Emergency transmission to planet Earth. This is Captain Vell of the research vessel, Gentle Current. We are stranded in space with critical life support failure." Kane listened to the entire message, his expression growing more serious with each word. When it finished, he turned to his intelligence officer, Colonel Reed. Reed was a shorter man with scars across his left cheek from a battle with space pirates 5 years earlier. "What do we know about this area of space?" Colonel Kane asked. Reed pulled up detailed star charts on his screen. "Sir, That's the Kepler 442 region. It's been getting dangerous lately. 3 different alien species have been building military bases there. The Vorthak Empire, the Hegemony Coalition, and the Rigel Confederacy. They're all expanding toward human space. Could this be a trap? Kane asked, studying the coordinates bait to lure one of our ships into an ambush. Reed zoomed in on the biological readings from the alien ship. The life signs look genuine, sir. We're seeing 43 different biosignatures, and several appear to be children based on their smaller size. And higher metabolic rates. If it's a fake, it's incredibly detailed. Kane was quiet for a moment, thinking he had learned to be suspicious during his long military career. Too many good soldiers had died walking into traps, but the readings showed children dying in space, and that changed everything. "What's our closest ship to their position?" he asked the Iron Hammer. "Sir," replied, "Captain Torres, the fleet coordinator." She was a tough woman in her 40s who had worked her way up from enlisted ranks. It just finished patrol near the Centauri colonies. Captain Morrison, commanding with a full crew of 800 Kane, nodded. The Iron Hammer was perfect for this mission. It was one of Earth's newest Dreadnought-class warships, 2 kilometers long, and armed with the most advanced weapons humanity had ever built. More importantly, it had excellent medical facilities and could handle rescue operations. "Get me Captain Morrison on the line," Kane ordered. The main screen flickered and showed the bridge of the Iron Hammer captain. Morrison appeared a calm, steady man in his 50s with graying temples behind him. Kane could see the efficient activity of a warship's. "Bridge crew, Admiral, we receive the alien transmission," Morrison said without waiting for orders. "My medical team is already analyzing their biological data. What's your assessment?" "Captain, they're not human, but they're definitely dying. Dr. Park says we can adapt our life support systems to help them. The ship appears to be a science vessel, no weapon signatures that we can detect." Kane made his decision. "Captain Morrison, you are hereby ordered to proceed immediately to the coordinates and render assistance to the alien vessel. Full rescue protocols." "Understood, sir. What are our rules of engagement? If this turns out to be hostile, protect yourself and your crew first. But remember, if this is genuine, we're about to make first contact with a new alien species. How we handle this could affect Earth's future relations with them." Morrison nodded seriously. "We'll be ready for anything." "Admiral, estimated travel time at maximum hyperspace speed is 18 hours. Make it 17 if you can, Captain. Those children don't have much time." As the connection ended, Kane turned to address his staff. "I want full monitoring of this situation. If the Iron Hammer runs into trouble, I want to know immediately. Also, get me a line to the President. She needs to know about this." Colonel Reed stepped forward. "Sir, shouldn't we contact the Galactic Council about this standard procedure for first contact situations?" Kane's expression darkened. "The Council read they've been ignoring our request for membership for 20 years. 3 of their member species are building military bases in space we consider ours. As far as I'm concerned, this is between us and these... What did they call themselves?" "A quarry, sir. From the research vessel. Gentle current, right? This is between us and the Aquari. The Council doesn't get a say." Meanwhile, aboard the Iron Hammer, Captain Morrison was preparing his ship for the rescue mission. The massive dreadnought came alive with activity as the crew prepared for hyperspace jump, all hands. This is the Captain Morrison's voice echoed through the ship's corridors. "We are responding to an alien distress call. This is a rescue mission, but we're going into potentially hostile space. All departments prepare for possible combat while maintaining readiness for humanitarian operations in the medical bay." Dr. Park was working with his team to understand the alien biological data. Their respiratory system is completely different from ours. He explained to his nurses. They process oxygen through what look like gills as well as lungs. We'll need to adjust our atmospheric mix. Chief Engineer Blake was modifying the ship's life support systems. If we need to take 43 aliens aboard, we'll have to expand our environmental controls. She told her team, "I want portable life support units ready for immediate deployment in the Marine quarters." Sergeant Major Stone was briefing his soldiers. "We don't know what these aliens look like or how they'll react to us," he said to the assembled troops. "Remember, this is a rescue mission. We go in ready to fight but hoping to help." As the Iron Hammer entered hyperspace, its hull glowing with the energy of faster-than-light travel, the crew settled in for the 17-hour journey. None of them knew that they were about to make contact with a species that thought of them as dangerous monsters from a death world. Admiral Kane remained in the command center watching the ship's progress on the star map. In a few hours, humanity would either gain new friends among the stars or face a new enemy. Either way, the galaxy was about to learn that humans did not abandon those who called for help, no matter who they were or where they came from. The countdown had begun aboard the Gentle Current. The situation was getting worse. By the hour, Captain Vell watched the life support readings drop to 15% while his crew grew weaker and weaker. The 5 younglings were barely conscious now, their small bodies struggling to breathe the thin air. Captain whispered. Navigator Finn, his voice so weak it was hard to hear the humans. "How much longer?" Vell checked his timer. 2 more hours. We just have to hold on for 2 more hours. Dr. Kef was moving slowly between the injured crew members, doing what she could with their failing medical equipment. Several Aquari had already fallen unconscious. The ship felt like a tomb, quiet, except for the labored breathing of the survivors. Suddenly, the ship's sensors began beeping with an urgent alarm. Vell forced himself to stand and stumbled to the navigation console. What he saw on the screen made his blood run cold by the deep waters. He gasped. "Finn, look at this." A massive object was approaching through hyperspace, something so large that the ship's computer was having trouble calculating its exact size. The energy readings were unlike anything in the Aquari database. "What? What is that thing?" Finn asked, pulling himself up to see the display. Before Vell could answer, space itself seemed to tear open in front of them. A swirling vortex of light and energy appeared, growing larger and larger, then like a sea monster rising from the depths, the human ship emerged from hyperspace. The Iron Hammer was a nightmare made real. It was enormous, at least 40 times larger than the Gentle Current. Its hull was black as deep space, covered in armor plating that looked thick enough to stop asteroids. Rows of weapon emplacements jutted out from its sides like the spines of some deadly creature missile launchers. Energy cannons and devices that the Aquari sensors couldn't even identify covered every surface. The front of the ship was shaped like the head of a predator, with sensor arrays that looked like glowing red eyes along its sides. Vell could see the scars of battle, places where the armor had been damaged and repaired, telling stories of violent conflicts among the stars. "This is what answered our call for help," Dr. Kef whispered in horror. "This is a ship of war, not rescue." The Iron Hammer moved closer, and now they could see smaller details that made it even more frightening. Gun turrets tracked their movement automatically. Launch Bay stood ready to release fighter craft. The entire vessel hummed with barely contained power. Then the communication system crackled to life with a deep, rough voice that sent chills through every Aquari. On the bridge, alien vessel Gentle Current. "This is Admiral Kane of the Terran Navy. We are responding to your distress call. Prepare to be boarded for rescue operations." The voice paused, and they could hear other humans talking in the background. Then the Admiral continued. "Do not make any sudden movements or attempt to activate any weapon systems. We are here to help, but we will defend ourselves if necessary." Captain Neuvel's hands shook as he reached for the communication controls. His people had called for rescue, but they had summoned something that looked more like death itself. Still, with his crew dying around him, he had no choice. "Human vessel," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "This is Captain Vell. We have no weapons. We are a science ship. We surrender ourselves to your mercy." There was a long pause from the human ship. Then the Admiral's voice returned, but it sounded confused. Surrender, Captain Vel. We're not here to conquer you. We received your distress call and came to rescue your crew. Do you need medical assistance? Vel blinked in surprise. These warriors, with their massive ship of destruction, claimed they were here to help. It seemed impossible in all the stories he had heard about Death World species. They were savage creatures who fought and killed without mercy. Admiral Kane Vel said carefully, "We are dying. Our life support has failed and we have injured crew members. But your ship, it is built for war." Another pause. Then a different voice came over the radio. Calmer, more gentle. "Captain Vel. This is Captain Morrison of the Iron Hammer. Yes, our ship is designed for combat, but we also carry full medical and rescue facilities. We have doctors, life support equipment, and everything needed to save your crew. May we come aboard to help you? Dr. King?" Hef grabbed Vel's arm. "Captain, the younglings don't have much time left. Whatever these humans are, we have to trust them." Vel looked around at his dying crew and made his decision. "Captain Morrison, you have permission to board our vessel. Please help us." "Understood. Preparing rescue teams now. Will have you and your crew safe in 30 minutes. The Iron Hammer moved closer, and the Aquarii could see airlocks opening along its side. Smaller craft began emerging, sleek shuttles that looked fast and dangerous, but also equipped with medical symbols and rescue equipment. As the first human shuttle approached their ship, the crew of the Gentle Current huddled together in fear through the viewports. They could see figures in powered armor moving inside the shuttle. The humans looked huge and threatening, even in their rescue gear. They looked like soldiers. Finn whispered, "Because they are soldiers." Vel replied quietly, "We called for help from a species of warriors." The docking clamps engaged with a loud clang that echoed through both ships. Then they heard the hiss of airlocks connecting and equalizing pressure. Heavy footsteps echoed in the corridor outside the bridge, footsteps that belonged to creatures much larger and heavier than any Aquarii. The bridge door slid open, and the first human stepped inside. The creature was tall, much taller than any of the Aquarii. It wore powered armor that made it look even more massive and threatening. The armor was military green, with scratches and dents that showed it had been used in real battles. A helmet covered the human's face with glowing displays and sensor equipment that gave it an alien robotic appearance. But then something unexpected happened. The human stopped just inside the doorway and slowly reached up to remove its helmet. As the helmet came off, the Aquarii saw their first human face. It was the face of a female with short brown hair and kind eyes. Her skin was pale, and there were small scars on her cheek that spoke of old injuries. But despite her warrior's armor and weapons, her expression was gentle and concerned. "I'm Commander Hayes," she said in accented but understandable Aquarii language. "We're here to help medical team get in here. Now we have casualties. More humans entered the bridge, but instead of weapons, they carried medical equipment and portable life support devices. They moved with military precision, but their actions were focused entirely on helping the dying Aquarii crew. Captain Vel watched in amazement as these fearsome Deathworlders knelt beside his weakest crew members and began working to save their lives. The contradiction was too much for his exhausted mind to understand. Warriors who came to heal, soldiers who came to rescue death, worlders who treated alien children with infinite care. What kind of species had they contacted? Commander Hayes looked around the bridge of the Gentle Current and quickly assessed the situation. The air was thin and stale, making it hard even for humans to breathe comfortably. The Aquarii crew members were scattered around the room, some unconscious, others barely able to move. "Medical priority 1, she called into her radio. "We need portable atmosphere generators and emergency medical kits. These people are in bad shape." Behind her, 4 more humans in powered armor entered the bridge. But unlike Hayes, they kept their helmets on and carried large medical cases. Instead of weapons, they moved with the same military precision, but their focus was entirely on the dying aliens. Dr. Park was the first to reach the younglings. He was a short, stocky man, whose armor bore medical symbols instead of combat insignia. When he knelt beside the smallest Aquari child, his movements were surprisingly gentle for someone in such heavy equipment. "Easy there, little one," he said softly. Even though the child couldn't understand his words, his tone was universally calming. He pulled out a scanner and began running it over the young Aquarius body. Captain Vell watched in fascination as the device beeped and displayed readings that Dr. Park somehow understood. The human doctor frowned at the results, then reached into his medical kit and pulled out a small breathing mask. "This should help," Dr. Park said, carefully placing the mask over the child's gills and nose. Immediately, the young Aquarius breathing became easier and some color returned to its pale skin. "How? How did you know how to help our young Vell?" asked, his voice filled with wonder. Dr. Park looked up and smiled. "Your distress call included biological data about your species. We've been analyzing it during our journey here. Your respiratory system is actually quite elegant. You can process oxygen through both gills and lungs simultaneously. We just had to adjust our equipment to match your needs." 1. Dr. Park worked on the children. The other medics spread out across the bridge. Sergeant Martinez, a tall woman with gentle hands, was helping Navigator Finn sit up and breathe from a portable oxygen unit. Another medic, Corporal Thompson, was carefully examining Dr. Keff's injuries from when the asteroids had damaged their ship. Commander called out one of the medics. "We need to get these people to our medical bay as soon as possible. Several of them have severe oxygen deprivation, and that injured officer has internal bleeding." Hayes nodded and activated her communication system. "Captain Morrison, we need immediate medical transport. The aliens are in worse shape than we thought." Morrison's voice came back clearly understood. "Commander, medical shuttles are standing by. How many passengers?" Hayes did a quick count. 43 total, including 5 children. At least 12 need immediate intensive care. We're ready for them. Bring them home. As the human medics prepared the Aquari for transport, Captain Vell noticed something that amazed him. These warriors, who looked so frightening in their battle armor, were treating his crew with incredible care. When they lifted injured Aquari onto stretchers, their movements were precise and gentle. When they spoke to frightened crew members, their voices were calm and reassuring, even though the words were in a foreign language. Sergeant Martinez was helping one of the older Aquari crew members walk to the transport shuttle. The alien was weak and stumbling, but instead of becoming impatient, Martinez simply adjusted her pace and provided steady support. "Take your time," she said, and broke an Aquari, obviously having learned a few words during the journey. "No rush. Safe now." Dr. Keff, who was conscious despite her injuries, grabbed Vell's arm as she was being moved to a stretcher. "Captain," she whispered, "these humans, they're not what the database said they would be." Vell nodded, equally confused. Everything about these creatures suggested they were born for war. Their ship was a weapon. Their armor was designed for battle, and they moved with the coordination of trained soldiers, but their actions spoke of compassion and mercy. Commander Hayes approached Vell as the last of his crew was being prepared for transport. "Captain, we need to move you now. Your condition is worse than the others. You've been breathing this bad air the longest. I must stay with my ship," Vell protested weakly. Hayes shook her head firmly. "Sir, with respect, your ship is dead. Life support is completely gone, and the hull breaches are too severe to repair. Out here, we'll take you aboard the Iron Hammer and get you healthy. Then we can discuss what to do about your vessel." As they helped Vell onto a stretcher, he looked around the bridge of the gentle current one last time. This had been his home for 5 years, and now he was leaving it in the hands of alien warriors from a death world. The transport shuttle was unlike anything Vell had ever seen. The interior was clearly military, reinforced walls, weapon storage, and seats designed for armored soldiers. But the medical equipment was more advanced than anything in the Galactic Council. The humans had converted their war machine into a sophisticated ambulance. During the short flight to the Iron Hammer, Vell watched Dr. Park work on the most seriously injured Aquari. The human doctor's hands moved with practiced skill, using devices that could monitor alien biology and adjust treatment accordingly. "How long have your people been practicing medicine on other species?" Vel asked. Dr. Park looked up from his patient. "We haven't. You're the first non-human patients we've ever treated, but the principles of trauma medicine are fairly universal, and your biological data helped us prepare." Vel was stunned. These humans had risked their lives to rescue complete strangers from a species they had never even met before. They had modified their equipment, learned basic words in his language, and treated his crew as if they were their own people. The shuttle docked with the Iron Hammer, and Vel got his first look inside the massive human warship. The corridors were wide and functional, with exposed pipes and wiring that spoke of a species that valued efficiency over beauty. But everywhere he looked, he saw signs that this ship's crew was prepared for his arrival. Signs had been posted in both human writing and hastily translated a quarry script showing directions to medical facilities. The air had been adjusted to be more comfortable for his species. Even the lighting had been modified to be less harsh for Aquari eyes. As they moved through the ship, Vale saw human crew members, stopping their work to watch the injured aliens pass by. But instead of the curiosity or hostility he might have expected, their faces showed concern and sympathy. A young human technician approached Commander Hayes. "Ma'am, we've prepared special quarters for our guests. Temperature and humidity are set for aquatic comfort, and we've installed communication systems with translation protocols." Hayes nodded approvingly. "Good work. Jenkins, make sure they know they're welcome here." As Vel was wheeled into the medical bay, he realized that everything he thought he knew about Deathworlders was wrong. These humans were indeed warriors. That much was obvious from their ship and equipment. But they were also healers, protectors, and caregivers. They were something the galaxy had never seen before. Soldiers with hearts of gold. 3 days had passed since the rescue, and Captain Vel was finally strong enough to walk through the corridors of the Iron Hammer. The human medical bay had worked miracles on his crew. All 43 Aquari had survived, including the 5 younglings who were now playing games with off-duty human crew members in the ship's recreation area. As Vel made his way to Admiral Kane's office, he marveled at how the humans had transformed part of their warship into a comfortable living space for his people. The corridors that once seemed cold and threatening now felt welcoming. Human crew members nodded politely as he passed, and some even attempted to greet him in broken Aquari. The door to the Admiral's ready room slid open with a soft hiss. Admiral Kane stood looking out a large window at the stars, his hands clasped behind his back. The room was simple but functional. A desk, chairs, and walls covered with star charts and what appeared to be military honors. Captain Vel Kane said, turning around with a slight smile, "Dr. Park tells me you're making excellent recovery. Please sit down. We need to talk." Vel settled into a chair that had been specially adjusted for his physiology. "Admiral Kane, I must thank you again. Your people saved our lives when they had no reason to help us." Kane sat across from him, his expression becoming more serious. "Captain, you said in your distress call that you're part of the Galactic Council. Tell me about this council."